What's poppin', y'all? On the first day of Young Thug's album releasing, Gunna's brother tweeted via IG, or he didn't tweet via IG. What the hell is going on with my head? I found the tweet, and it was via his IG story, and he said the last one earned 18.7 million streams on its first day on Spotify, making it the fourth biggest debut for a rap album in 2025, blowing smoke out the nose emoji 3 times. Yeah, the other guy and the Avengers, 9.6 million. And he was referencing Young Thug's most recent album. I think enough time has elapsed for me to talk about this because I wanted to see how it performed. Like, the first week didn't concern me too much. It wasn't a great first week anyway. It's the third week now, and I listened to the album 3 times the first day that it dropped, or between the first 36 hours, because I listened to it twice the first day and then a third time the next morning. And I waited, and I saw that I didn't really come back to any of the music. And then I said, you know what, let me listen to it again, get a little bit of a refresher before I talk about it in this video. And we're going to talk about both how it's performed, how it's held up. For example, like, are people still listening to any of the songs? Are any of the songs charting? Is the album performing well? Is the album holding up week over week? And then we're going to talk about my opinions on it later in the video. So off rip, this album was released in the midst of a disaster. So Young Thug had already been out for nearly a year from jail, where he spent several years waiting trial and then going through the trial process, and he was facing a lot of time. He ends up getting out of that. He is the hometown hero, not just a hometown hero. He is the hip hop hero. We didn't see a comeback like that, a release like that since Bobby Shmurda, and it was probably just as much of a disaster as Bobby Shmurda's release because he didn't drop anything. He was teasing things for about a year, and of course, he was still hopped up on the whole snitching thing whilst Gunna himself was killing the game. But what happens? The snitching allegations resurfaced thanks to Traplo Ross. Now, Seti Nash was, I think, the first to post it, but Traplo Ross shined a light on it, and it really spread. And then academics talked about it, and then everybody started talking about it, which was this interrogation footage that was 2 hours long. And Young Thug has been gung-ho on, or had been gung-ho on calling everybody a snitch, including Kid Cudi, who was subpoenaed to show up to testify against Diddy, of all people. I don't know why he would defend. I just didn't know what Young Thug was up to. But Young Thug starts panicking now because everyone who he calls a rat, everyone's calling him a rat now. And they're like, yeah, this is hypocritical. Most people were just concerned with him being a hypocrite because Gunna, of course, officially told, objectively told, anybody that disagrees with that is a lunatic. But frankly, we don't care. We're still listening to Gunna. The majority of people still listening to Gunna because Gunna didn't do too much explaining. Gunna dropped good music, and Gunna was not calling everybody else a rat and calling himself a super gangsta or super real one. So Young Thug ends up doing more jail calls. Jail calls start leaking too. So people start looking at Young Thug's character like, yo, what's going on? So he drops this album amidst all of that and the interview. So the interview was, I would say that was one of the biggest interviews compared to 6ix9ine's. I would say that one and 6ix9ine. There was the same motion around that one that's around the 6ix9ine interview right now with Vlad. And Young Thug's a bigger artist than 6ix9ine. So he drops the album to try to get attention away from the interview, the whole telling allegations, and he pulls out all of the stops. He has himself like white on the album cover. He has in the first track of the album, he's ripping the hard R towards the end of it. And when I listened to the album, I initially thought the lows were very low and the highs were kind of high. Now I'm going to say that the lows were still very low, but the highs were medium. Like, if I were to say, like, the song with Travis, I enjoyed that song. I go back to that song. Other than that, there are a couple of songs that are okay, that are decent, but most of this was just forgettable and kind of whack, frankly. And then first week, it did like under 50K. And like I said, I'm not too concerned with how it performed the first week. I'm concerned with, was it able to sustain? Because this is the most anticipated Thug album since High Tunes, which never ended up dropping. That thing's been anticipated for like 6-7 years. He hasn't mentioned it in forever. I think he started mentioning High Tunes in 2013 or probably 2013. And people were Metro Thuggin' too. Metro Thuggin', I think, ended up leaking. But with High Tunes, that never dropped. This EI Scuddy, whatever you want to call it, the biggest planet, the biggest galaxy, the biggest whatever, that did not do what it was supposed to do. He was talking about that album for about a year or so. And he dropped a deluxe for it too, which I don't even think people noticed that he dropped the deluxe, the Supernova edition, which I think this was dope, and this was probably the concept for the original mixtape out for the original album cover. You had like it looked like a supernova, and you had Young Thug's face on it. I thought it was a really cool cover. It was better than the regular album cover, and I think they changed it because the red and white album cover, you can't even get it, at least not on Apple Music. I can't get it to show up when I look up the album name or when I look up Young Thug and I go to his profile on there. Actually, no, yeah, I can. I have to look it up. I have to look up the album by itself to get the original one. So this was 20 tracks as well, and his label had been working for a long time trying to get this to release. But what do we got? In the third week, he's getting outsold by Gunna. So the second week, it was number 27. And then in the third week, and number 27 is partially helped by the fact that he released the Supernova edition, which was set to, like, you know, increase the sales, make sure it doesn't drop off too much. And then it goes down to 108. A 108 from number 27 to 108. And this is not the Hot 100. This is the Billboard 200 albums chart. And Gunna's album, the last one, is still at number 28 after 10 weeks. So after 3 weeks, Young Thug's album is cratering. It is falling down like you just shot it out of the sky. Meanwhile, Gunna's album is sustaining itself. He's also on the album Swag. And just to give you an example of how bad it is that Young Thug is that low on the charts, in his third week, mind you, is, let me name you guys a couple of albums that are outselling Young Thug currently, right now, that have released far before Young Thug's UI Scuddy. Music by Playboi Carti is at number 43 this week, and it's on its 31st week. So Young Thug is at 108. Do you know how low that is? Views by Drake is outselling him, but I think one of the songs on Views by Drake is, we won't even compare him to Drake, right? But we're just talking about old albums. Heart Sold Separately, an EP by Mariah the Scientist, or like a shorter album, is outselling him. Osama Sun's Psychotic, first week, of course, is outselling him, so it hasn't been there for that long. Tyler, the Creator's Don't Tap the Glass is outselling him on its 13th week. Hey, come on, man. Pitbull's Greatest Hits is outselling him. Although, granted, that thing has been on the charts for 229 weeks. That's insane. Pitbull's got some hits. We can't lie there. I don't know who's playing that, though. That's got to be just like playlist music automatically just getting played. Who's seriously looking for projects like that? But yeah, all of these other artists are crushing it. Make America Slime Again, of course, too. But Youngboy's the hottest thing out right now, so we can't even say like, yo, it's embarrassing to be outsold by him. It's just that this album, it felt like, to me, if the intention was to get all of the attention surrounding him telling off of him, that's exactly what it did. Because it dropped, people talked about it. They were like, yo, he's ripping the hard R. Oh, he's doing this. Oh, he's got the white album cover. And then everything just died. Like, it just shifted the attention. But it's not like, now he's in a weird position because nobody, not a single soul, is anticipating new Young Thug music. You don't see that being talked about. So all of the anticipation and goodwill that he built up during the jail time that he served and post jail time leading up until the leaked calls and the resurfacing of the interrogation clip is gone. And this album is not continuously getting listened to, seeing at the rate that it's tanking and the conversation around it. Nobody's saying like, yo, this song's growing on them. Not a single person. So there's zero talk of it. It's almost like Young Thug just lost it. And the best thing for Young Thug to do right now is to actually continuously drop, to try to catch something, try to catch some sort of fire. And he hasn't been doing that either. Because now you kind of got to build it back up. And DaBaby's gone through something just like this. And Gunna has also, well, DaBaby, he tried, but he wasn't able to like make a full-on comeback. Although, like I did say, the DaBaby mixtape that dropped last year was really good. Like, you guys should check that out if you haven't. As for, like I said, talk about more about how I felt about this album, I just felt like it was a lazier Thug. I felt like it wasn't prime Thug. It wasn't the Thug we're used to. He had certain flows that just sounded like he didn't know how to make music the way he usually does anymore. And he talked about it too, where he's like, yo, how can I even make music when I'm not with my friends anymore? Like, I lost all my friends. It's like, yeah, sure, but this is your job. and you've probably got a bunch of old tracks. And I will give Thug some credit in that he's talking about like his current experiences on this project, but it doesn't sound good. And it still sounded on the project of, oh, everybody screwed me over and I'm the victim, when we know that's not the case. He was the perpetrator. If you called Young Thug a victim before this case, he would have laughed at you and sent hitters after you. So you are not the victim. We're not going to pretend like you're the victim. And now, really, he's the victim of his own actions, because now this album is, I would say, it's one of the worst received Young Thug albums in over 5 years. And by worst received, I don't mean people were just saying like, yo, this is absolute garbage. Just look at it. Nobody's listening to it. And they're not going to be buying it week after week after week. So I think this is just a sad outcome. Do I think Young Thug is done? Nah, I don't think so. He can't be done. He's already established himself. He's already got a catalog. However, I will say it is an uphill battle for Thug from here, because Thug has never been a solo singles like smash hit guy. Like some people be like, well, he's got like relationships. Well, he's got this song. Yeah, those aren't solo. And he had Check. I guess you could say that was one, but that was like, what, 10 years ago? But what we're saying is that Young Thug is not known as a hit maker. He was known more so for his projects and putting together like mixtapes and songs that would come out of these mixtapes. But for him to just drop a banger of a hit, he wasn't really known too much for that, and I don't even think he would be able to do that right now. And this hasn't even been a month since this album dropped, by the way. Like some people probably like, damn, it feels like so long ago that album dropped. Nah, it has not even been a full month. But yeah, I think it was good. It was a sacrifice. This album was a sacrifice to get the attention off of Young Thug. Like everybody blew their load, pause on that, of all the jail calls and all that other stuff. And we kind of got tired of it. We got fatigued with how much exposés were happening with Young Thug day after day after day, that we just weren't trying to hear, or maybe they weren't trying to release any more of them. But yeah, let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. What did you think about the album, especially now? Like, what did you think when you first listened to it, and have you revisited it? I think that's one of the most important things, because if you didn't revisit it, you probably didn't like it as much as you thought you did. But let me know in the comments, like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed, and I'm gonna see you on the next one.